I was actually at Aranui High School in Christchurch, and we had a theatre sports group, and we didn't really fit in. I'm sure they just went, who are those weirdos? And so they're our kind of weirdos, and What Now asked us to audition, and so I ended up on a cooking segment. So that's what I did as a part-time job rather than working at McDonald's. I worked on What Now, and so I sort of did little inserts into that when I was about 16, 17 years old, and kept in touch with them even though I went overseas on AFS. And then they gave me my first full-time gig when I was 18, and that was called From N to Z, and we travelled from Cape Reinga to Stewart Island. So a really amazing show for a first gig. I think it was a really important personal journey for me as well, and I still look at some of those experiences I had years ago as they were onces, you know, flying in a helicopter to the top of Ruapehu and things like that. And Peter Hayden was actually the person who said to me, you know, maybe we should look at you pronouncing Māori words correctly. And that wasn't something that was part of my life at that time. So it was an amazing show. We won Best Children's Program, which really pissed off the people I worked for next, which was In Focus, because they're like, what? That's a 5-minute insert into What Now? But it was a great training ground, and I've never had any formal training as such, just always on the job from there, and pretty much constant in some form. I've worked in television. I came to Auckland, I was working in TVNZ Maori department, just sort of an in-between season show, and then I auditioned for Ice TV and Marae simultaneously, and really hoped I'd get Ice TV because it just seemed a lot easier and not so scary in terms of what I'd have to confront if I did Marae. And of course I didn't get Ice TV, and the rest is Petra Baggist's career history, but I'm glad that I got Marae because I made a lot of friends, but it was not only a professional journey but a personal one as well. So Mai Time came up sort of late 90s, mid to late 90s. In terms of music, it was probably the only place that people could hear urban and see urban hip-hop music. That was a great time for that particular genre of music. You had people like Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, all developing. And so we were riding that wave of being involved with something that was popular yet growing, I guess, because it had come from its underground kind of base and become more popular. And so that was combined with Maori culture at quite a, I guess, ingestible level, approachable, and it was putting it in a context of young people, so people felt like it was, I guess, relevant. And so we went to small towns and showed this is tāne atua, this is how kids are different, not by saying hello kids you're different, but just by showing what they do, that they go to school on horseback and that kind of thing. The thing about Mai Time is that it was more timely than we realised at that point, because urban and hip-hop music wasn't as sort of chart music and as popular as it widely is now. So we combined that with a kind of Maori flavour, but it was 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, so you're not exclusively aiming at Maori people, but you have to be sort of, I guess, people who are open to it. And so generationally, I think that people of that age were like, well, I like the music, these people are all right, they kind of do a lot of this stuff, and so people didn't quite know where to put us, but they felt comfortable with the music and therefore felt comfortable with the culture and how we expressed it. But I do think we were kind of misfits, and we were accidentally right on point with our timing of when that show was made. When I was doing Mai Time, I was given some other opportunities at TVNZ, so I'd present things on the side like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Mike King. I'd sometimes do little specials about Farmer Santa Parade and showstoppers. I think that's how I got on the first Celebrity Treasure Island. So they were really good at giving me opportunities, and I could always stay with Mai Time, and at that time I got into radio as well. So it was sort of where I began to be able to juggle a few different roles. I did TV2 news breaks, and that was really just here's a digestible version. If you are mildly interested in news but don't want to switch over to TV1, you cool funky TV2 people, then here it is in a nutshell. And I put it, you know, just would cut it together, work with the editors, and work in after the new stuff, you know, in between their other shows. now I think about it, I have been lucky enough to do quite a lot of entertainment shows. So we had Showstoppers, McDonald's Young Entertainers, and that was Jason Gunn working on that, and cute little Drew, who's now a rock star, and Ainsley Allen, all those kind of things. So a lot of touring of the country and seeing people putting their talent out there, which I find it interesting that that's a format now. You know, what has always been a talent show is now potentially, you know, just call it another name, call it X Factor, call it Idol, and it's a format. But I do think that that's kind of the real heartland New Zealand. People just going, you're really good at that, you just go and have a go. You just go down to the mall and you'll be awesome. And that's what we did have a lot of, you know. And I remember we did a final at Te Papa, and we had a rehearsal. We looked at it, Kinkapisi and I were going, yeah, we think these guys are going to do it. And then we sort of going, oh, in the actual performance, those guys weren't as good, but maybe we should go with that second place getter. And we ended up going, oh, no, I think in terms of entertainer, in general, we would have to go with these guys. These guys who I can't quite remember, but I remember who second place was, and that was a little girl called Hayley Westenra. It's an epic fail.
Yeah. Oh, you know, she's been striving for that first place ever since.
I would like to think we helped her.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, yeah. You just have to have a little few bumps along the way. I really love the buzz of live television, and the feeling of it's now or never, and if you stuff up, you just have, just like real life. I think it's quite addictive and hard for people to let go of. It's kind of like radio, you know, so instant, so ready to go. And of course, yeah, you fall over and, oh, we're just going to have to deal with it. Maori television shows just sort of happen naturally. I've done one, No Sweat Parenting. I've done reversioning of Maori language things for, say, Mr. Ed, where I'm Carol Post, and a really great range of stuff. Like, I feel like the sort of content that I get to do for Maori television I really love and is quite sustaining. So at the moment I'm working behind the scenes on a sort of documentary based series, and then Pio and I had worked together on No Sweat Parenting. And then It's in the Bag came along, and Libby Hakarai had done really well to get the rights from the Too Good family, and I'm sure lots of people had tried because it's such a beloved format. But that means that there's pressure in that you have to do that justice. But what I find as well is because it was such an immaculate format, it's kind of hard to go wrong. And people are, I think it sits really well on Maori television. They're sort of surprised to know that Selwyn Too Good was Ngai Tahu, and really proud of that. And so it feels like there's a really nice presence about it, you know, that Selwyn would feel good about what's happening, because it's still the same gems. It's still going to small towns and letting people be themselves and stars. And Pio and I think, oh, that's a little bit wrong, we're getting paid for this really, because it's just fun, and then you roll up and I get to, you know, get all glammed up, and then we go, what do you reckon, Murupara? And they love it. And they feed us beautifully, they say hilarious things, you know. Everyone's a comedian basically in these small towns, and there's two different types that come along. There are people who remember the first show, or perhaps went to the first version of the show, either Selwyn Too Good or John Hawkesby, and then there's people who just think this will be fun and this will be a big, you know, TV show. I don't really talk about having a job. I say it's what I do, and that's what it feels like. You know, I get to do a lot of things that I enjoy and happen to get paid for. But I'm really grateful that I've really learnt a lot about myself by the work that I've done. As I say, learning on camera in terms of my language, that sparked things into my culture, which I wouldn't have expected. And if I had got the ICE TV job instead of the marae job, I would never have had happen.